Let me unmute. Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
no
There we
sweat.
go.
How long have you been growing pawpaws?
About 15 years.
Okay. My favorite of all of the pawpaw stuff that I've sampled through you guys was that pawpaw ice cream. That was primo.
Yes, we do that when we have our workshops in the fall, our tasting workshops. We end those up with a little sampling of pawpaw ice cream and some pawpaw baked goods, and try to send everybody home with a smile on their face that way.
It works.
We get some of that pawpaw beer involved, and then woo.
Smiles get bigger. All right, so
that is true.
So I'm prepared to be your screen sharer. So you just keep your mic on, and I'm going to pull up your PowerPoint, and we're going to take things away. Okay. Screen share. You see all the many things on my.
There's
site
so much
here.
going on this screen, Tony. Ah, that's better.
All right, I'm going to close these for now.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to silence our mic, and you take it away.
Okay, thanks, guys. I know it's tough following Tony and his act there, but we'll see what we can do. I must say, I'm also a lot more comfortable out in the field than I am in front of this computer. I just not particularly of the computer age, but we'll do what we can do here. The topic we have today is native North American fruits, and particularly we want to talk about the pawpaw, North American pawpaw, and the American persimmon. So we just move on. Both of these fruits, trees, pawpaw and the persimmon, produce edible fruit. They're both native to the North American forest, basically ranging out to Kansas, and as far south as Alabama, Louisiana, and as far north as actually almost into Canada. Here's your map of distribution of the pawpaw, and the map would be very similar for the persimmon. Both of these fruits ripen in the fall and into the winter, and in my opinion at least, and it's not just my opinion, it's known that there is a commercial application for both the pawpaw and the American persimmon. Now, how do you grow pawpaws? Well, they're pretty easy. And the same thing, what I'm going to say about pawpaws, a lot of it, probably 90% of it holds true for the American persimmon. So, simply say both of them are pretty easy to grow. As far as soil requirements, pawpaws will grow in full sun, partial shade, or shade. Persimmons like pretty much full sun. But sticking with the pawpaws, the rule of thumb is the more sun you have, the more fruit you'll get. The more shade that you have, the tree becomes taller, fewer branches, fewer and smaller leaves, and they really don't produce a whole lot of fruit that way, although that is actually where they are normally found in nature. You plant pawpaws 8 to 10 feet apart. That's all they need. They require minimal pruning, and one of the most important things is that they're great for organic production because they have virtually no natural pests. So they're perfect for that. From the morning, it's kind of interesting, from the morning session we had with Eric, the first picture he put on of trees being grown in an alley production, the first one he put on was pawpaw. And I said it's just ideal for that growth, that type of growth. As far as reproduction, we kind of covered the grafting and in the video. Seed germination is easy if you follow certain steps. You need to keep the seeds clean and moist when you collect them, and then cold stratify them while they're still moist for a minimum of 3 to 4 months, and then you plant them, and then you have to be patient. Under normal conditions, it'll take almost 3 months after you plant them before anything will show up above ground. This doesn't mean nothing's happening, because they do produce a large amount of roots, but the last thing to appear is the vegetative growth above ground. This particular picture here is of some seedlings that are about, this is about the 1st of June. Now, these are seeds that I planted indoors in January. And so from January till June, this is basically what you have. If you planted these seeds outdoors and let nature do its stratification, this is about what you would have in August. I prefer to do them indoors, and that by doing that, I get basically like two years growth in one, compared to what you would get in nature. The next slide shows seedlings that are upwards to 2 feet or more in height, in length or height, say around the 1st of October or 1st of September. If you're planting these seeds outdoors, this is what you'd have after 2 years, not the end of the first year. As far as grafting is concerned, we mentioned that in the first in the film, and basically grafting is done so as to have a tree that has a known cultivar and the known traits that you want. And it's very straightforward. You have a rootstock and a scion. In the film, I was showing you the rootstocks were actually come up from a stump of a tree that had died. The above ground part died, but the roots didn't. And so then they produced these nice rootstocks or shoots that I could use as rootstocks, and then we just grafted onto them scions of particular cultivars. And that's really about all I need to say about grafting. There's a lot of information on the internet about grafting if you're interested. So just quickly, this if we back up, yeah, this one just shows what a whip and tongue graft is like, and this is your finished graft. After you finish the graft, in other words, you cover this with parafilm and little wax, and then a month later, if you're lucky, you have successful grafts. And here's 2 trees that were grafted, and I said about a month or 5 weeks after grafting, we have these 2 trees that are ready to grow for the summer. And by the end of the summer, those trees will be in the 3 to 4 foot range in size and ready to be planted out. They can either be planted in late summer or in the fall, or held over and planted in the spring. Either way, the way I grow these trees, these are in 14-inch deep tree trainer pots, and they can basically be transplanted at any time. If you do them in the summer, you do have to provide a fair amount of water, because you're taking them out of a controlled water environment where they're watered daily, and now you put them out in nature. Can't just depend on rain, so they do need to be watered. But other than that, if you plant them in the spring, the same thing is true in the spring. In the fall, you water them a little bit, and then they'll go dormant, and they're ready for growth the next spring. Okay, as far as flowering is concerned, we did spend some time in the video with flowering. Here is a picture of a mature pawpaw flower. Here in Jersey, the flowers come out in the spring. They come out before the leaves are on the trees. And this means late April into May is when they flower. And the time of flowering, or the period of flowering for pawpaws is pretty long. They'll flower over a 3 or almost 4 month of, I'm sorry, 3 or 4 week period of time, unlike many of the fruit trees in which the flowers pretty much come out almost all at once. And as I'm sure all of you know, your peaches come out and you get a heavy frost and now you have no flowers and no peaches. But with pawpaws, it's a little different. If you get an early frost, it'll kill some of the early flowers, but there'll be more to follow it. So you almost always get a crop. Flowers are pollinated with flies and beetles, and cross-pollination between 2 genetically different trees is essential. This is a photo of on the left of a pawpaw tree with lots of flowers on it, and you can see well before the leaves come out. In this photo on the right, you see the green flowers, which I've mentioned. These are what we like to refer to as the immature flowers, and the purple one are the mature flowers. The immature flower is the one in which the female component of the flower is mature and ready to be pollinated. In other words, the pistil, which is the part that's the female, this tip of it, which is the stigma, is has sticky, oozing with sticky stuff to accept the pollen. Well, the pollen gets there by flies and ants and beetles, but has to come from a purple flower in which the pollen is ripe. Now, here again, it's not from these 2 flowers here because they're on the same tree. But if we look at the next slide, here is a better view of the green flower, which is again the immature female stage of the flower, and the purple flower is the immature male stage. And here's a bit closer view of the male flower. And back up, please. This is the immature or the mature flower, I'm sorry, with the pollen all around it, as I'm pointing to. And you can see in the center is the stigma of the pistil. At this point, the stigma has either been pollinated or it's just going to wither, because it would have been ready to be pollinated in the green stage. Okay, that may all sound kind of confusing. And the only importance of it really is if you're hand pollinating, because you got to make sure you take a pollen from the purple flower, or maroon, actually it's maroon, not purple, the maroon flower, the pollen, and transfer it to the green flower. One other point I want to make: all pawpaw flowers or all pawpaw trees have both male and have flowers with both male and female components in it. There is no such thing as a male tree or a female tree. We sometimes just use the term male flower and female flower, meaning just the condition in which the reproductive parts are fully developed. Hopefully that's not too confusing for you. But these are complete flowers with both male and female components in all of them. No male and no female trees. Okay, next please. This is just a cutaway view of one of these flowers, and here you can see this is a stigma here of the pistil, and these are the anthers all around it of the male anthers, and they're not ripe yet. They're not ready to release the pollen. Go ahead. As far as fruit production is concerned, A grafted tree will start producing fruit as early as 2 years after it's been planted in the ground. More typically, it's 3 or 4 years, but sometimes 2. That one in the video of the Shenandoah, which is, by the way, one of Neil Peterson's best varieties. That tree started flowering the second year it was in the ground, and has steadily produced fruit since. Seedlings, on the other hand, take a minimum of 5 and more typically 6 or 7 or 8 years before they'll actually start flowering. And then the other question is, how much fruit can you get from a tree? Well, obviously it depends on the age and size of the tree and the condition the tree's been raised in. But I think under normal conditions, a tree that's, once it reaches 7 or 8 years, a grafted tree, once it's 7 or 8 years old, one could anticipate to get at least 30 pounds of fruit per tree. Yeah, I have some of my trees this past year, because we did have a real good growing season. Some of them had, I'm sure, as much as 75 pounds a tree, and I had one tree that had well over 100 pounds that I did keep track of because I knew it was really heavily loaded. This just shows a picture of how sometimes the fruits, in fact, quite often they come in clusters. This is a cluster of 3. It's recommended that if you have fruits clustering developed, that you should thin the clusters down to where there's not more than about 3 in a cluster. I typically don't do that, but I should. When you do that, you'll get larger fruit, of course, fewer fruit if you trim them. And I think there's been at least one study that was done that demonstrated if you're just growing for bulk, it doesn't help to prune, even though you'll have, because you'll have more fruit. It'll be smaller, but the total pounds you get will be just as much, if not more, from not thinning. Okay, where are we here? This is just another view of cluster on the right, and these are some a photograph that of one of Kentucky State's varieties called KSU Atwood. It's their first release, which was released about 8 or 10 years ago, and it's a real excellent fruit. As you can see, the color it's cut. I like this photo because it shows the interior, in which it's nice orange fruit in or flesh, and right in the center you're looking towards a seed. All these fruits have seeds in them, and the seeds are fairly large. And one of the characteristics that breeding programs, one of their goals is to reduce the number of seeds and reduce the size of the seeds. And Atwood is a good example of that. As far as nutrition, pawpaw is very high in fiber and very high in caloric content and very high in potassium. That is, when I say high, I'm comparing it to other common fruits that we have available. As far as protein and most of the other minerals, the pawpaw is relatively moderate and comparable with things like bananas and apples and so on. But this photo here is actually taken from Kentucky State's research orchard. It's actually a pretty good example of alley cropping, although they weren't planted here as a crop. They were planted just as for experimentation, but you can see the trees are planted there about 10 feet apart. These they do prune these, and they have a good distance in between. I don't think they harvest anything off there. I think it's grass and they keep it mowed, but they could probably harvest hay from it if they wanted to. This photo here is from some of my trees here in the field behind the house. And these, as you can see, are not not really pruned. I've let them kind of grow big, and they're very good producers. And they're getting to where I don't have to do a whole lot of mowing around because of their size. In summary, pawpaws are excellent excellent trees to grow. You can grow them organically. They're pest-free, they're low maintenance. They're great for backyard fruit production. And there's also a lot of potential for commercial orchards. There's, as I mentioned, there is a really nice commercial orchard in Maryland. It's called Deep Run Nursery. And they have, I think, somewhere around 1,000 trees in the ground. If in terms of the amount of trees you can have in an orchard, you can plant upwards to 300 trees in an acre. Now that's a lot of density. If you're going to do alley cropping, which probably would be a great idea for anyone here in New Jersey who's looking to maybe get into pawpaw business a little bit. Don't go out and plant hundreds and hundreds of trees right off the bat. Try alley cropping and a few rows, and you'll see how it goes from there. That would be my recommendation. But if you did have an acre of trees, 300 trees, I think you can pretty much expect to, in 7 or 8 years, have somewhere in the 4 or 5 tons of fruit available, pickable. And, you know, at that point, you better be looking to have developed a market for them. Okay.
Charlie, I don't know if we're going to be able to get into persimmons at this time, just because we're cutting it really. We're actually a little bit over, and I'd rather people be able to ask you a couple questions.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Mm-hmm.
So let me stop screen share.
Yeah, and if there are people who want to hear about persimmons, we're really sorry. We're a little pressed for time, so we can, if you communicate with Devin, then I'm sure we can set up another time so that Charlie can take you through persimmons thoroughly. Okay.
Well, if I could just jump in and say, this fall, we're planning to have not only the pawpaw workshops, but towards around the 1st of October, we'll probably have a combination persimmon and pawpaw workshop. So those of you who are not really familiar with American persimmons, you might want to keep that in mind and get signed up through NOFA. Here again, all the workshops I do are sponsored by NOFA, and all the organization is done by NOFA. About all I do is just roll out of bed and put on the show, if you want to call it that. But
we got one question we're going to throw in because we're getting pressure. We're getting pressure.
Okay.
Tell us about the roots. So, you know, the earlier session today that some of us were on with the alley cropping,
right?
What is the root depth? Are they like superficial? Do they go deep?
No, well, both. Pawpaws will put down a big root system, a big tap root system initially. That's why I grow those small trees in 14-inch deep tree trainer pots, and they'll grow right out the bottom of those. But they do put out a lot of lateral roots. And of course, because we have root suckers coming up, these are coming up from fairly superficial roots. So they do both. And so they're very good that way, but they'll go right down into to the shale anyway. Around my farm, it's shale about a foot down. And I found that has been detrimental in some of the plantings that we've done. Lost a few trees, and once you take them up, you see that basically the root system just didn't take into that shale, and I lost them. And then other trees right in the same alley are fine. You know, they're now 15 feet tall. So
Just
kinda
gotta find the right
like-
crack in the shale to get that root into us.
Yeah, kind of, and there's ways to, the big planting that I did about 10 years ago, I was in a hurry and I used a post hole digger to dig the holes instead of digging bigger holes and scarring the holes. That's one of the things to do if you're planting. Scar the side and the deep as much and the bottom as much as you can, so that those roots maybe have a chance to get anchored into the shale a little better, and in just the clay that's on top of the shale.
All right, well, so we thank you for sharing your wisdom, and anybody who has more questions, persimmons, pawpaws, look on the website, NOFA-NJ.org or NOFA-NJ.org, because what the spring and late summer, right? We have two workshops usually with
Well,
you,
I
or-
don't know about the spring.
Okay.
We did a spring workshop 3 or 4 years ago, and
Everybody, the gosh
and
darn
I
busy
also
in the
did
spring.
one online, and then we haven't done a spring one since.
Okay, well,
Um,
the summer one is the best one because that's when you get to eat it. So,
Yes,
so check
yeah.
them out, check Charlie West out and go visit them. We're rushing you off. So thank you so much, Charlie.
Thank Charlie.
I'll talk to
Yeah,
you
just
again.
one other thing. If anybody wants to contact me directly, it's wcwest@gmail.com.
It's like Winter Conference West.
That's
There
it.
you
Email.
You
There
got
you
it.
go. Devin just put it in the chat.
Six
for
simple
everybody.
letters.
Beautiful. All right, thanks so much, Charlie.
Okay, thanks,
All right.
guys.
So we've got, oh, there we go.